In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, farther from any continent than almost any inhabited place on Earth, there are nearly 900 giant stone statues standing on a tiny volcanic island. The nearest populated land is over 2,000 kilometers away. The people who carved these statues had no metal tools, no wheels, and no draft animals. They quarried them from a single volcano, moved them across the island, and raised them upright onto stone platforms, some weighing over 80 tons. How they did it baffled the world for centuries. And the answer, when it finally came, turned out to be even more extraordinary than the mystery itself. Easter Island, called Rapa Nui by its indigenous people, sits in the southeastern Pacific Ocean at a latitude of 27 degrees south, roughly equidistant between Chile and Tahiti. It is one of the most remote, permanently inhabited islands on Earth. A triangle of volcanic rock covering just 163 square kilometers, it was formed by 3 shield volcanoes and offers limited agricultural land, no natural harbor, and almost no fresh surface water. By any rational measure, it is not a place where a complex, monument-building civilization should have flourished, and yet it did, producing one of the most astonishing artistic and engineering achievements in human prehistory. The people who became the Rapa Nui arrived on the island sometime between 700 and 1200 AD. Polynesian voyagers navigating open ocean in double-hulled canoes using star positions, wave patterns, and bird behavior as their instruments. They came from the Marquesas Islands or the Society Islands to the west, carrying with them the agricultural plants, the tools, and the cultural traditions of Polynesian civilization. They found a forested island, dense with palm trees, and began building a society that would, over the following centuries, channel an extraordinary proportion of its energy into carving, moving, and erecting the giant stone figures they called Moai. The Moai are not random creations. They are highly stylized representations of ancestral figures, deified chiefs or important ancestors whose spiritual power, the Rapa Nui believed, could be transmitted through the statue to protect and provide for the living community. Each Moai was commissioned by a clan, carved to represent a specific ancestor, and erected on an ahu, a ceremonial stone platform, facing inland over the village it was meant to protect. The statue's eyes, inlaid with white coral and red scoria pupils when in use, were believed to contain the living spiritual essence of the ancestor. They were not decorative objects, they were active spiritual presences watching over the people who had built them. The quarry, where virtually all Moai were carved, sits inside the crater of Rano Raraku, a volcanic cone on the island's eastern side whose compressed volcanic ash, called tuff, proved ideal for carving. It is soft enough to work with basalt hand picks, but hard enough to hold its shape once exposed to air. At Rano Raraku today, nearly 400 unfinished Moai remain embedded in the crater walls in various stages of completion, abandoned mid-carving when the Moai building culture suddenly collapsed, frozen in the positions they occupied on the day work stopped. Some are barely roughed out, others are complete except for their bases, still attached to the bedrock below them. Walking through the crater is walking through a moment of catastrophic interruption, preserved exactly as it occurred. The carving itself was achieved entirely with basalt stone picks, thousands of which have been found scattered around the quarry. Teams of carvers would rough out the statue while it lay on its back in the crater wall, shaping the front and sides completely before undercutting the base to free it from the rock. The average Moai stands around 4 meters tall and weighs around 13 tons, but the largest ever successfully erected, known as Paro, stands nearly 10 meters and weighs an estimated 82 tons. The largest ever carved but never moved, still lying in the quarry, would have stood almost 22 meters and weighed around 270 tons. That one was perhaps ambition outpacing possibility, even by Rapa Nui standards. Moving the completed Moai from the quarry to their ahu platforms across the island, some as far as 18 kilometers away, was the challenge that puzzled researchers for generations. Early European visitors, unable to conceive of how it had been done without modern machinery, generated theories ranging from alien intervention to a lost advanced civilization. The Rapa Nui oral tradition itself offered an answer. The Moai walked. For decades, this was dismissed as mythology. It turned out to be essentially accurate. Experimental archaeology, actually attempting to move replica Moai using only materials and methods available to the Rapa Nui, eventually demonstrated the most likely method. Teams using ropes attached to the statue's head could rock it from side to side in a controlled walking motion, waddling it forward upright on its rounded base. A 2012 experiment led by archaeologists Carl Lipo and Terry Hunt moved a 5-ton replica Moai using just 18 people and 3 ropes in this manner, covering ground at a rate that made the island-wide distribution of Moai entirely plausible within realistic labor and time estimates. The statues walked. The oral tradition was telling the truth. Once at their Ahu platforms, the Moai were raised upright, likely using a system of wooden levers and progressively built earthen ramps that allowed gradual elevation without requiring the total weight to be lifted at once. The massive stone topknots, Pukao, carved from red scoria at a separate quarry, were somehow rolled to the sites and hoisted onto the statues' heads, a feat of practical engineering that researchers are still refining their understanding of. Everything was achieved through accumulated knowledge, organized labor, and a level of practical engineering sophistication that the island's apparent simplicity entirely conceals. And then it stopped, abruptly, completely, and tragically. The collapse of Rapa Nui's Moai building culture was once attributed entirely to environmental self-destruction, the islanders cutting down every tree to move their statues until the island was deforested, the ecosystem collapsed, and society descended into warfare and cannibalism. This narrative, popularized as a cautionary tale about civilizational self-destruction, turns out to be significantly more complicated and significantly more damning of outside forces. Recent research indicates that European contact beginning in 1722, bringing introduced diseases to a population with no immunity, caused catastrophic population collapse. The Peruvian slave raids of the 1860s then removed roughly 1,500 people, including virtually the entire educated class who carried the island's oral traditions and knowledge of its unique Rongo-Rongo script. By the time serious outside attention focused on Rapa Nui, the people who could have explained exactly how and why everything had been built were gone. The Moai still stand, or have been re-erected after being toppled in the inter-clan conflicts of the collapse period. They stare inland over an island that has forgotten their names, watching over descendants of the people who made them with eyes that no longer hold their coral pupils. They are the most eloquent monuments to human ingenuity and cultural loss in the world, extraordinary in their creation and heartbreaking in everything that surrounded it. The wind moves through the grass around the stone feet. The faces look inland, patient, silent, waiting for a story that nobody left alive can fully tell. If this gave you a new way of seeing what civilization can build and lose, subscribe, because every week we find the wonders history left unexplained and go looking for the truth inside them.